Hello everyone and welcome to TTT Markets. In this video we are going to discuss high probability global macro trading setups for the month of October. We are now at the beginning of the second week of October, and you might wonder why didn't we release a video last week at the beginning of the month. Well, allow me to show you. Let me go to the weekly economic calendar, and it is right here. And you will see there is a note right at the top. US government data may be impacted by the shutdown. What has happened is that on the 1st of October, we had the government shutdown in the United States. This means there was a disagreement regarding fiscal expenses between the Republicans and the Democrats, and since they didn't reach an agreement, there is a government shutdown. So government agencies that are supposed to release economic data, they do not operate. This is why on Friday, for example, we didn't get any NFP data. We only got the release of the ISM Services PMI, which is released by the Institute of Supply Management. It is something completely different from the government, and this is why they released the data. But NFP, nothing there, and some other important economic indicators. So it was a little bit unknown territory for us because we couldn't possibly evaluate how the US economy is progressing. And there was another, maybe even more important reason. We knew that during the weekend we had important elections in Japan. That's right, in Japan. So what happened over the weekend in Japan, we had elections for the leadership of the ruling party. And there were two candidates, and the markets were a little bit concerned that if Lady Taikachi wins the election, then this could mean a little bit more weakness for the yen, for JPY. Why? Because if she wins, that would likely bring increased uncertainty and potential shift in the Bank of Japan policy, because Taikachi is known for her opposition to rate hikes, and she is known for favoring more aggressive monetary easing policies. So do you see what the problem was? If Taikachi wins, weak yen. If the other candidate wins, I have forgotten his name, he's out of the equation right now, then it would mean business as usual for the Bank of Japan and for the Japanese government. Now, guess who won? Yes, that's right, Taikachi won. And let me show you in euro yen, and I will tell you there is another reason why I'm choosing first the euro yen. You can see there is a huge gap from the Sunday open until today, right now that I'm doing the video, and it is Monday afternoon in my local time. So you see last week, or the last couple of weeks in September, euro yen was dropping. And allow me to remind you this. Do you remember what we discussed in September's video? We had highlighted these areas for you. And we said because of economic activity, because of economic data and so on, every time we reach into resistance, and I'm going to share with you all the important yen crosses, our strategy is to sell. So I didn't tell you to buy. You can go ahead and watch the video. I said when we reach resistance, sell. And the last week or weeks, let's say week of September, gave us some very good moves. For example, euro yen, it broke higher, reached past long-term resistance, and we had some pretty strong moves. This is, I think it is close to 300 pips move down in 2 or 3 days. So this is a very strong move down. It came down nicely after meeting resistance here as we discussed, came back up, tested the resistance here at the trend line. We knew though that we were going to have this uncertain election in Japan because we were looking at the polls, and the polls were suggesting that it is 50-50. So I can tell you that I closed all positions I didn't have any risk in euro yen, took all the profits from September, and I was just waiting. So the market opens, Taikachi wins, and we have this big move. Why again? Because of expectations that Taikachi is going to favor more aggressive monetary easing policies, which includes tax cuts and cash payouts to support economic growth. This is because of her past. So in the past, she had supported such policies. This is why we had this big move against the yen. But allow me to say this, and now I'm going to discuss new trading ideas and new high probability setups, and I can tell you what I have done already. Now, this time is different. Why? Because for the first time in 30 years, we have inflation in Japan. We have, well, for the measures of Japan, we have strong economic activity, better than other areas of the world, better than Europe. I'm not going to say better against United States. We can debate about this, but definitely Japan is right now doing much better than Europe. So guess what I did when we reached this round number, 176? I took the short, closed profit, and what I'm doing in this area right now, I'm very careful. I am not betting the farm. You can see how this level was rejected at the moment, but it is very early to call this a top. So if you are watching this video a little bit later, pay attention to this candlestick. This is the open candlestick for the week. This is very important. We might get some choppiness inside here. I sold at 176.10, came down actually at 50. I took some profits because I had multiple positions. I still have one position open, a little bit lower. So this is what I'm doing. I am not betting the farm. I am not going for the home run. Let's say I have a position here, a position here. I do not enter my trades all at once. The risk is the same. Don't get me wrong. I am not averaging in losses. But what I will do is, if I decide to risk 1%, I will break this down in 4 clips of 0.25, for example. So already I took some very nice profits from this move lower, and I'm still short. I still have a short. If it goes higher, I will sell another clip, keep some, sell some. So I'm doing a little bit of trading. But let me zoom out and show you why I'm not telling you to go long here. And there is another extremely important macro fundamental reason, or you can argue it is a political reason. So this is the weekly chart. Let me zoom out so you can see what is happening. Look at this. I am not going to tell you to go long here and buy euro yen because of what happened in Japan. What I think will happen eventually in Japan is that Taikachi, she is not going to be so aggressive with monetary policy because the economic environment is different. The market will realize this, and the strengthening of the yen will continue again. We are at important highs. I have zoomed out so you can see. So I'm not going to go long over here. This is a weekly chart. Let me go back again to daily. There you go. Let me sort out the chart. So I'm careful at the moment. As I said, I'm selling some, keeping some. I'm writing profits while I'm still short. And of course, my main goal is that this gap over here is going to be covered. And I'm going to have some nice profits. But I spoke about another important reason, and this is the political situation in France. What has happened in France? Well, we had today, which is the 6th of October 25, the resignation of French Prime Minister. His name is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly, Lecornu. Sorry, I'm pronouncing this with an English accent, so I apologize for my French. But he resigned unexpectedly, just 14 hours after appointing his new cabinet. So this is disaster for France. And why am I calling this a disaster? To resign just 14 hours after appointing his new cabinet. Because France is in a very bad fiscal place right now. I am extremely concerned about France. GDP is now cut in half. They were expecting 1.2 GDP growth. Now for 25, they are estimating it is going to be 0.6. So they are cutting GDP growth to half. What about the debt? This is maybe more important. So public debt has increased above 116 of GDP. The government deficit at the same time is around 5.6 of GDP. Inflation is low, but they have high unemployment. Why I'm saying all this? Again, high unemployment, inflation low, but real inflation, I don't know if it is higher. The most important problem is low growth and high debt. This is the fiscal situation in France right now. The main issue is who is going to govern? Who is the new government in France? There could be more political unrest, there could be more turmoil, and imagine if the far right becomes government, what is going to happen in France? This is why I was selling here, because someone that is only technical might say, well, we broke the high, why did you sell? It was because of the situation in France. And because I think Taikachi is not going to be as aggressive with monetary easing as everyone else thinks right now. So I monitor the situation here in Euro-Yen. I'm looking at the news. You must pay attention to the political situation in France, what is happening with government, because this is going to affect the euro. And before I move to another euro cross, sorry, not euro cross, yen cross, let me show you euro USD. Why is euro USD weak? Well, you know now the reason. Euro USD, I had drawn my trend lines and I was inclined to buy at support. As you can see here, very simple. This is Euro USD daily chart. I knew the areas that I'm doing business, but now I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to buy here because I see a good probability that it can break lower. Why? Again, you know now the reason. The government has, not the government, the prime minister has resigned after 14 hours. No government, troubles again on the horizon, and usually I would be long because of what is happening in the United States and the government shutdown. But now with this, with the developments in France, oh no. I'm going to wait to see if we get a more extreme move, and I will reevaluate again at 1550. I see some small support there, but ideally, even 114, let's see if 114 is open. It will all depend on the situation regarding the government in France. So this creates a little bit of uncertainty because you cannot possibly know what is going to happen. If it is about the economy, you can make a projection. When it is about technical analysis, more or less, you can estimate where you are doing business, where is your risk, where is your target. When you have to wait for political developments, it is a little bit of an unknown. So now I will go back to this. I will go back to yen crosses, which is going to be my favorite. It's going to be my main focus in October. So this is the dollar yen. And as you can see, we had the drop as we discussed in September. If you go to September's video, we said sell into resistance. We had the 300 pip move down. Great trade, 149.70.80 was a great point to sell. Price moved down into the support zone. We took profits here. And then during the weekend, as we discussed at the beginning of the video, we had the victory of Taikachi for the leadership of the party, and the price is moving up. In fact, it gapped up and it goes straight into resistance. And I do have started to sell over here, and I'm going to sell all the way up, at least up to 152, 153. As I have told you before, I am not betting the farm. I am not risking too much. I am not averaging losses. I use small clips, I sell into resistance, and for me, the trend is down. I'm zooming out so you can see the big picture. And there is also the macro reason, because I told you this is a global macro high trade probability analysis. What is the global macro? Why should I think that the yen right now is superior to the dollar? Well, in Japan, we have higher inflation, we have better growth, we have better economic indicators, and I think at the end, Taikachi will not be so aggressive with monetary easing. She will have to go with the flow and go with what the Bank of Japan wants to do. On the other hand, when it comes to the US government, oh boy, problems they have. The shutdown, this is impacting non-essential services, federal research, and many other kind of services. It is about 750,000 people. We have concerns about economic growth. We have concerns about debt. I'm looking to data. Perhaps we could do another video at some other time to discuss some very hardcore global macroeconomic data that do not really agree with, let's say, the regime that the media are suggesting. We see deep troubles underlying in the economy. We have a high number of credit card delinquency rates. They can't pay the credit cards. We have many bankruptcies in August and in September. So we are having some data that suggests that there is an underlying concern, there are troubles in the underlying economy. This is why I do not wish to go long the dollar against the yen and why I am selling at specific levels. There is also another reason, and it has to do with equities. I will not go to another forex pair. I will go to this US 500. This is the S&P 500. Sorry, let me pick another one. I think I have been using this one for my analysis. No, it doesn't matter. Why am I showing you this? You see, this keeps moving up and it keeps moving up. But this is because of only 7 stocks. Last week, I read that while the index was printing new highs, 40% of the S&P 500 was in the red. It wasn't making new highs. This is happening because of 7 stocks. So because of 7 stocks, they control all of the equity market. Do you think there is a bubble in AI? Maybe you agree that AI is here to stay and it is going to be very important for the years to come. But for now, it is very likely that we are inside an AI bubble. But the most important thing for me is the fact that 7 stocks, what are these stocks? Well, the usual ones, Nvidia, Meta, Google, Tesla, and some other stocks, which I don't remember right now, they push the index higher while the rest of the stocks are not doing so well. So this is something to pay attention, because I have a suspicion at any minute it could be this week, it could be in 1 month, it could be in 2 months, it could be in January. I don't know about the timing, but I'm prepared for this. I think the US stock market will implode. So this is what is going to happen. And it will be very difficult to contain this. It will not matter if they lower rates, if they have rates back to zero, it doesn't matter. It will be very difficult to contain this. This is why I'm very careful when it comes to dollar yen. I go back to dollar yen now. It's the stocks, it's the economic policies, and the other reason, it's the government wants to lower rates in the United States. So Trump and company wish to lower rates. They wish to have a central bank, the Fed, that has more aggressive easing policies. So if that happens, the yields move lower, the dollar loses strength. This is why I'm saying I'm not going long the dollar and I prefer to buy yen whenever I can. Let me show you another one that I like. I think this could be my favorite. I really made good money with this one. So this is pound yen. And guess what happened last month when we were approaching the highs? I was a seller here, seller again over there. We moved below the trend line because, again, the underlying economy in the United Kingdom is not doing well at all. So this is something that I keep in mind, and I will share more details. But we had the news because of Taikachi's win in Japan. We had the gap up straight into resistance. And can you see how I have done my homework? Let me use weekly actually. So I have done my homework. This is where we are, close to all-time highs. I have highlighted the areas that I'm doing business in advance, so I know where I'm supposed to do business. So I go back to daily. I have small shorts over here, and I'm keeping some bullets. Let's say I still can sell some clips if it moves higher. But if I move to, let's say, 4 hour or 1 hour, let's move to 4 hour for now, you can see the gap. So I think this is going to move lower again. There is a gap to fill. And the reason for my conviction, it's not only the technicals. What I'm doing here is simply support and resistance. But let's discuss the UK economy. It is expected to avoid a recession in 2025, but this is a very close call. I mean, they are avoiding this. We are very closely avoiding this. It's a very narrow path avoiding this recession. There are expert forecasts that they project modest GDP growth around 1.1 to 1.2%, but growth is overall sluggish and barely positive. At the same time, it is worse than Europe. Why? Because Europe has lower inflation. This time in the UK, they have stubbornly high inflation, close to 3.8. Can you put together 1 plus 1? We have high inflation, stubbornly high inflation, low growth, barely positive. They will narrowly escape a recession in 25. This is a persistent risk for stagflation, low growth combined with elevated inflation. This is something to keep in mind. Secondly, fiscal policy. They have a black hole of 50 billion. They need to find 50 billion to cover public finances, cover expenses. Where are they going to get this? Whatever they do, it's very tough. This is why I am not going long the pound. There is no way to go long the British pound. We had this move up because of Taikachi's win. For me, this is a gift. So at specific levels, I'm going short because of the reasons I mentioned. And again, I am not betting the farm. I'm not going for the home run. I am not averaging losses. My risk is known in advance, even if you risk 1% or 2%. That's it. That doesn't change. The only difference is I'm breaking my entries in multiple clips. So I'm not betting everything at once. So this allows me to sell at multiple different levels. So for October 25, yen will be at the center of our attention. This is our theme, Taikachi's win, the drop in the yen, but we feel that this is against macro fundamentals and this is going to turn. Again, if you bet small, if you are careful with risk management, you are allowed to sell at highs and sell even higher and wait for the move down like we did in September. In September, we did the same, down. Why does this work? Because we go with the flow of the global macro fundamentals. So it is going to be a volatile October. Be careful, pay attention to political developments, pay attention to equities because there can be an implosion anytime. It could happen now, it could happen early 26, but I feel the more it gets higher, the more nasty it is going to become. And in which pairs you should pay attention. Pay attention to pairs that already they face challenges in the economy. For example, the pound against the yen, You can see I'm choosing the pound because it has problems back home. I'm choosing euro yen because of French worries, French government worries. This is big. You can see it continues to move lower. And I have chosen also USD, JPY. This is another one I have picked. Right into resistance. It comes a little bit lower. Fantastic. I think it is going to move all the way down, but you have to be patient. And I'm going to mention two more, but you have to be very careful with this. This is one that I'm building a very large macro position, but pay attention. Swiss yen. This is 4 hour, actually let me move to daily. And you can guess where I have sold. I have sold here, right at the highs and waiting. Why am I selling? Why am I doing business here? Well, there is one main reason. Switzerland does not have the economic problems of EU. They do not have the problems of UK, but they have a very good reason to sell the Swiss, especially against the yen. What is this? They have zero interest rates. The central bank, the Swiss National Bank, is still, I think it could be the only central bank, but they have zero interest rates. So there is a diversion here. On one hand, we have a central bank with zero interest rates, and on the other hand, we have Bank of Japan. Yes, Taikachi won. It might delay a little bit any Bank of Japan hikes. It might. They might still go on, but it will not derail the strategy of Bank of Japan. So this is the matchmaking that I'm making. I am selling a currency from a central bank that has zero interest rates and has trouble with a very strong currency. This was now all over the news, and I actually read a piece from Bank of America. They were highlighting that right now the strength of the Swiss franc is a problem for the Swiss central bank and the Swiss government. So it is a no-brainer. I'm selling some, but again in my usual way. Sell a little bit, don't overdo it, pay attention to risk, and this could reward you handsomely. The last one, because you have asked, is Aussie yen. With Aussie yen I am extremely careful. Why? I have one small clip sold here, but I'm very careful because this is influenced also by equities. And equities are stubbornly high and they might just keep going. And because Aussie yen is affected by equities, I'm very careful with this. So if it goes higher, I will sell a second clip, but Aussie yen is the yen cross that I'm the least aggressive. So I'm aggressive with euro yen, pound yen, dollar yen, Swiss yen, because of troubles, let's say locally in the economy, but with Aussie yen, because of equities, I am more careful. This was our outlook for October 25, high probability trading setups. Pay attention to the underlying fundamentals, pay attention to political developments, and we are going to be with you very soon with another video to explain the developments and what we see happening next. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.